Welcome back to another episode of Launching Us. This is a podcast where we talk about us becoming small business owners and the journey it takes to get there. This week we have a cool guest, Juan. I forget how to say your last name the right way. Help me out.
Carcano.
See, and the bad thing is I'm Mexican. Like, it's bad that I can't say. Yeah, I am supposed to know this. I had a conversation with a friend of mine, and he was like, "You pronounce my name way wrong." And I was like, "Man, I'm sorry."
At least you stopped and asked. Most people just go right through it. It's originally Carcano. It's Italian, and Carcano. There's a Carcano family that made rifles for World War I, and somehow that name migrated into the States. And I think somewhere in the Caribbean, the ñ got to the tilde got added. Uh-huh. And fun fact, the rifle that killed John F. Kennedy is a Carcano rifle. Yeah.
May or may not take this out of the podcast, but don't want to get messed up with the government. But tell us a little about yourself. I know you have a painting company, but it's not just painting like a house painting. It's more than that, right?
Yeah, we're considered a coatings company. So anything that sticks to the surface is a coating. If you see a water slide, it has to be painted, it has to be polished, it has to be taken care of. We do that on one division. Then we do epoxies and floor coatings for another division, which is concrete, stuff like that. And then we do a lot of concrete repairs on the exterior of buildings. We actually waterproof buildings, makes these buildings get watertight because concrete is naturally absorbent of moisture, and we make those watertight to where it's not taking in water all the time.
That's pretty awesome. What got you into?
Well, it's almost like I tell a lot of people that my dad and my uncle refinished furniture for a long time, and we lived in older houses in Galveston where the downstairs is basically a garage and the upstairs is the house. So they would refinish furniture, and I would go to their shop and I would smell all the lacquer, and I'd tell people I have a lacquer in my veins. Like, I couldn't do anything else but paint. Like, that's all I could do.
My dad was a body mechanic for years, and the thinner or like paint, whenever I pass by a body shop, and I'm just like flashback of being in the garage or walking outside to talk to him, and it's just that's all I smell.
And it stays on your clothes too.
Yeah, like even like car bondo, like for some reason I love that smell.
Yeah, catalyzer.
So sometimes I'll pass by a couple of shops just to smell it, so I can remember my dad. Rest in peace, pops. But yeah, I love that. Tell us, like, did you always want to be like a business owner? How does that journey start for you? Like wanting to become a business owner?
So originally, when I was probably 8 or 9, I wanted to be an architect. And then when that happened, because I drew a lot, so I wanted to be an architect and draw pictures, and it just all made sense to me.
Yeah.
And I love geometry. But then I watched it's not the Wolf of Wall Street. It was what was it called? I can't remember. I think it was just called Wall Street. And I love the action of
Is that like the old wheeling, like 90s version? Yeah.
The wheeling and dealing of that. And I just liked the business. Like, I always saw that person can do this and that person can do that. I don't know. I don't say that I'm naturally good at it. I just say that I really like it.
Yeah, you were more geared to like, I want to be a business owner versus I want to work for somebody. Like that didn't, I don't think anyone's ever like appealed to like being a waiter or a waitress, but like that mindset, like I'm not meant to do that. I meant like you're kind of leading to something else.
But I waited tables too.
I think everyone should.
And everybody should wait tables because it humbles you. It teaches you an incredible amount of skills, people, how to read people, how to de-escalate, how to handle stress, how to work under immense amount of pressure.
Yeah, I mean, lunch schedules or that lunch rush, that's the word I'm looking for, the lunch rush or dinner rush, it's the worst because it's like literally one table to another table to another table, get that water, get this, and you got to remember the orders, and then you got to make sure to remember to go back and actually check, do you need more water, you need this? And you can't have that rush type of speech. Yeah. You got to go to each one like you're calm and collected. Yep. And how's this going? And as soon as you turn around, it's like, my mom's been a waitress for years. And if I go, when she used to work at IHOP, if I go to IHOP, I really only want to sit at her table because she's so good at what she does. When I get to talk to her while she works. But whenever we go there, we haven't been in a while because my mom retired from there. But when we used to go and my mom was probably too busy or too swamped in her area, we had to get someone else. She always asked me, how was she? I was like, man, she's slow. My water's not full. Like, I always felt really bad because I was always like bag on them. But there's an art to it.
There is.
And it is very humbling to have that experience, to serve anybody in any capacity. It's very humbling. And it really does set you up for when you have your business of how you want to approach your employees, how you want to serve your customers. Like, I still have a lot of that same basic mentality of, okay, I'm serving them, not in the sense of this, but I want them to feel like it's a service and that I'm talking to them in a certain way and things like that. That's pretty cool.
So one of the questions that I wanted to ask you specifically, I know Juan told me a bunch about your story and I thought that was so inspirational. But I wanted to ask you about what tips would you give, like practical tips that you'd give to someone wanting to go into your field and begin their own business?
Specifically in our field, and I think it applies kind of across the board, is people need patience. You know, everybody wants to blow up in a year, 2 years. I've been in this 22 years, and I'm just now seeing kind of reaping, you know, the benefits of this. I'm able to pull back just a little bit. The money's steady. Patience. That's all you need. I mean, if you do a good job, you do what you want, what you're supposed to do. If you tell a person, I'm going to paint 4 walls, and you paint 4 walls, and then you wipe down everything at the end, it's just going to keep repeating itself. Yeah. And that's how we started, because we painted houses for better part of 12 years, maybe 14. You know, about 8 years ago, I started switching over to the stuff that we do now.
So what would you say would be the moment that you were like, okay, this is it, like this is the business? Always. So you always knew you wanted.
Yeah, I always knew it because, so backtracking to I lost my parents. My dad had a brain aneurysm when I was 9 in June of '91, and then my mom, and he's still alive. He was in a coma for about 43 days, and then he came out of it right there at UTMB. He came out of it, and then mom passed away in a car accident in September of that same year. Wow. So we were essentially orphaned because he didn't have the capacity to keep raising us. Yeah. So my grandmother adopted us. Now, I didn't know this. Wow. You just kind of go live with your grandma. Yeah. You know, we're Mexican. Okay, go live with your aunt. Yeah. But she adopted us. And then when we finished that school year, we moved to Mexico because the gang violence was really bad in Galveston. And the person that was supporting us, which was my uncle, just couldn't split 2 houses. It just couldn't do it.
Yeah. 100%. The 90s for Galveston, the early 80s, horrible for gangs. Terrible. When people complain about that now, I'm like, you have no idea what you're talking about.
I saw gunshots outside of my window. I saw, people get shot over T-shirts or over pants, over
all kinds of stuff,
jackets, over shoes. It was just, or wearing the wrong color in the wrong neighborhood. Like, this is kind of easy time is what I call it.
Yeah, for sure.
So grandmother adopted us. We moved to Mexico, and we literally did not have a pot to piss on.
Wow.
And then we lived comfortably here, but when we moved to Mexico, we moved to an adobe home. It had concrete floors, but we used an outhouse. We didn't have running water half of the time. We didn't have hot water. You forget about a water heater. We just had to get up, start a fire, heat up your water, put it in a 5-gallon bucket, cut it with half cold water, use a pitcher to cut it. So I'm really big on rations. Crazy about
it. Especially growing up like that, it's for sure.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I remember the first time I went to Mexico, it was in Matamoros, and we went to go take a bath outside. My grandma had a big old tub outside, and we fill it up, and my mom was like, front yard, take your clothes off, let's get ready. And I'm like, I think I'm like 12 or 11 at this time, and I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, it's cold. She's like, yeah. And then I wanted hot water. I wanted this. And then it was a big culture shock, but it left me with that appreciation for what we have, but also the appreciation they have to continue going with life. There's no stopping regardless of what they have. This is what they have, and they got to move forward. And it's very respectful. If that's the word. I think I made a word up, but it's respectful.
Respectable?
Yeah, respect that. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. That's the right word. And so, So how was that journey? Like you going through all that, what do you take from that now? What are you looking at your childhood, looking to that time frame? What do you take now?
So I didn't know it at the time. And I realize that a lot now, and I get choked up about it. But so grandma was the town medicine woman. So she came in and she was she knew a bunch of remedies. She could cook her butt off. And she was really hard on us. She was like, you need to learn how to sweep. You need to learn how to mop. You need to learn how to iron your own clothes and wash your own clothes. I don't want anybody ever telling you that you can't do shit. That was her mentality.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, she was over here what we call sobandera. Oh, you twisted your arm? I got you. Come back 3 times. And she'd be like, 20 pesos. And 20 pesos was nothing.
Yeah.
Back, it's still nothing.
Yeah.
But she stretched out that dollar, but she just had this grind. And it's almost, I've been told that I'm a lot like her. There's almost like arrogant way of like, hey, you're the best. What do you want to do? You want to go spend some money? Because there was only like 2 ladies in town, and they would come down from other towns, from other pueblos, and come and visit her. I'm like, oh, can't get pregnant. And she would like do her thing, shake them around, and be like, drink this for 3 days, come and see me. And 2 months later, they're like, we have a baby. it was just weird. And she did a lot of the stuff with rubbing you down with the egg and all that. But I saw the grind, and I saw the hustle, and that's why I call it the best years of my life, because I learned how to work. I started working at 11. I was 11, and I would just watch her do her thing and stretch that dollar just as much as she could. Just be real creative with what you can do.
Yeah.
And that's why, I never take credit for what I do. That was my grandmother. She taught me how to be resourceful, how to be, minimize expenses. And I'm not the best at it, but
Wow, but you at least hold your head up like I'm as best as I'm gonna be right now. And I think that's how I look at our small businesses. I know I'm probably not, we were talking about Disney. I'm not Disney. I'm not making these 3D animation type of stuff and this whole world in a studio, but I'm the best that I am right now. And I can take any camera that I currently own, any past camera I currently own, and I know I can make something amazing in my capacity. And
you're resourceful with what you have.
And I am super resourceful, and I think that's because of my mom. Yeah. So like when you talk about your grandma, I think about my mom, like how resourceful she was, being a single mom, working sometimes 2 jobs or at least double shift. I mean, it's quite crazy to. I not growing up a father. I think about not having a dad and some of the things that we went through, and I kind of forget like how much my mom did for me growing up, because there was a good like 10 years where we didn't have a dad, and I was like in my prime growing up years where I didn't have a dad.
You needed a dad. Yep.
And I saw my mom work her butt off for me to be in the Scouts, so I'm around good men. Yep. Regardless of people's opinion of the Boy Scouts. And my scout leader was great. I had a good scout leader.
You can't draw a line.
And then and then at the same time, she would put us in baseball during the summer, and it was me, my brother, and my sister, which is not cheap.
It's expensive.
And she would put us in, and it wasn't like at least for Galveston, we had like the central lead, which is normally the ghetto lead. Mm-hmm. I played on Easton, like that was a pretty expensive lead, like. But I remember my mom working her butt off and never really showing it, at least to us, that she was struggling. Yeah. And so when I would whine and complain about not having a such and such video game, I didn't know how much she's already struggled and how much she's already gave up just so we can have the little things that we have. And so like, I think about that, like I gotta be resourceful, I gotta be creative. And I think that's kind of the reasons why I love shooting weddings, because you only get one day, it's only one moment, and you like gotta think and think and think and think and think.
You're on your toes.
You're on your toes, and I love that grind of it. Yeah. And so that it's good to hear you kind of talk about that.
Sounds like a lunch rush to me.
No, it's 100%. Yeah, it's 100%.
And you don't sit down. No. It's like 12 hours on your 8 hours on your feet, depending on like you have to be there early to prep, make sure you've got all the angles correctly, like you've got all the equipment. If you forget anything, you have enough time to run back or get batteries or whatever. Yeah. It is constant. And then like I love it when we get to the reception and you have to like dance to keep yourself from falling.
I'm 100% agreeing to every song I possibly can. It's funny that we moved to weddings, because you and your wife are actually one of the first videos when I first started. I'm trying to think of how long ago that was.
Our anniversary is coming up this next week, July 15th. So it's July 15th, 2015.
Yeah, that's quite a bit of time ago. And
7 years ago.
Yep. I've aged a lot.
Is it 7?
7 years,
Oh my God, I cannot do math. I was like, that's like 12 years ago. And that's kind of when I first started. Like that was my first few videos. I think your wedding was probably the second one I shot. Yeah. And I look back at it now because it's still on YouTube, and I was like, I'm so much better now. I was like, I'm so much better. And I remember watching your video, and I was like, oh, I love this part. I love this part. I love this part. And now looking at it now, I'm like, I could have done this better.
Well, that's always the case with business.
Exactly.
You can't look back and say, I should improve here. I should make this a little faster. I should make this way better. Then you're not doing it right. Yeah. And then I guess that's what drove me the whole time. And that's what I tell people all the time. Like people are like, well, you lost your parents. Yeah, it was a shame. It was a real shame. And
Yeah.
by no means did I not get hurt by it. But at the same time, I grew a whole lifetime in those 4 years in Mexico.
Yeah.
And then they gave me something, nobody can take away.
Yeah.
And not a whole lot of people experience it. Like when
Yeah.
when Biggie says, we wonder why Christmas missed us. It missed us twice. Twice.
Wow.
And we were like rewrapping old gifts. Sorry.
No, you're all right.
No, we were rewrapping old gifts like we had, like old shoes and all that, and give it to each other. So, and just now that I can go to the store and pick up whatever the hell I want, it's kind of cool. Like and I don't give myself, like I said, I don't give myself all the credit, but man, it was rough.
Yeah.
Man, it was
Yeah.
rough. Yeah. But
Yeah.
it got me here.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you don't appreciate the past and the struggle that you gone through, then you definitely don't appreciate what you have now.
But I would have
Yeah.
to say that those experiences have really made you guys the men that you are.
Yeah.
And I think going back to what you were talking about, like how your grandmother played such a key role in those 4 years, played such a key role in that, in your experience now as a business owner, what would you say are like one or two things that you would say specifically you translated into your business?
Oh, I think that my grandmother was never afraid to say no. I don't think there was a big enough challenge for her. And she was so confident that she just, like she could just make you believe anything. And it wasn't like, there was prayers and there was some stuff, but she wasn't a doctor, and people still believed in her blindly. Now I've got some qualifications behind me, but I got into this business kind of head first, and I was like, well, we'll figure it out when we're there, I guess. That's one thing. The fear factor's completely gone. And going back to my grandmother was like, always told us that we didn't need anybody. And she wasn't just making us dysfunctional. She was making us independent. But I took that from her and kind of molded it into myself, because I did that for a very long time, and it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
And I did that for a very long time, almost verbally abusing people because I was telling them, I've lost everything. But not everybody did that.
Yeah.
You got to remind yourself, like, you shake people, you're like, well, no, you can't just, I was pressed hard. And I came out semi-okay. We're still here cracking up and crying, but it just doesn't work. So I saw that stern hand that she had with us.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not the best. God forbid that I ever turn her down for something. She'd be like, well, this is what I cook. You got to eat it. No, well, that's what we're going to eat.
Yeah.
And I think it just doesn't translate anymore. It doesn't. So I've got to, I've became a little more gentle. I've just kind of a little more empathetic, where you look at people like, man, not everybody lost their parents.
Yeah.
Not everybody's hyper functioning. Not everybody's
Everybody's hyper functioning. I like that, because I'm hyper functioning,
Yeah.
and I can be really hard on people, or in my head. Well, I try not to say it to people, but in my head, I'm like, oh my God, if they don't move a little faster, or why can't they multitask? What is the problem?
Yeah. That's something we've had this conversation for the last at least 10 years, where people don't work the same way we work, and that has to be okay.
Yeah.
I
feel that so hard.
It's not always acceptable, but it has to be okay. I have to be okay with it.
So we were at the Opera House one day with some guys, and I can't remember what show we were watching, and the guy I was with kind of lost his shit, the usher. And I was like, well, whatever, we're just here. And then he came back, he's like, I shouldn't have said that. He went back and apologized. He was like, look, I apologize. And I was like, I don't think I've ever apologized for losing my shit on anybody. At that point, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And he's like, you know what? I shouldn't say that to somebody, because I don't know what they've been through. I don't know what kind of day they have. Their parents could have cancer, and they're just here kind of just zoned out.
Yeah.
And I took that lately into my employees. When my guys when I got a guy that's slacking, missing a lot, I'll pull him to the side. What's up, man? Oh, I said, you missed a lot of work lately. Well, most people are embarrassed to miss work.
Yeah.
Most people. You okay? Well, let's go talk in my office, and I'll bring them in and I'll say, hey man, what's going on? And, most of these people have family problems, or they have a death in the family, or they have this, and they're stretched out as much. Well, what can we do to help? Well, we offer vacation in our company. After a year of working with us, we pay you a week to either cash out or stay out. Just to build a loyalty program. You want to cash out your vacation? Would you let me do that? Yeah, absolutely. You need some money? I know things are expensive, and most of these guys are sending money back home.
Yeah.
So, an extra $500 really
goes a long way.
Yeah, it goes a long way. So I'm like, and I do that not to build a loyalty or to create a favor for like, hey, go a little harder.
Yeah.
But if you relieve that stress, if you pay people what they're worth and you relieve the money stress, then their mind is a little clearer, hopefully. Some people just can't get enough money. And they can produce more. And it sounds terrible, but you're winning in all terms because you're making that person feel cared for.
Yeah.
You're paying that person and they're producing more money. Well, we're all winning.
Yeah.
And if we're all winning, we just elevate.
Yeah.
There's an article I read years ago, just making sure the cameras are good.
That's all right.
There's an article I read years ago where it talks about sometimes your employee don't want more money. Yep. They just want better communication. Yep. And when I read that, it triggered so much in myself. I was like, yeah, that's what I want. I just want a better communication with my boss. I want better communication between the staff. I want just better communication. And I kind of took that from every other job I've gone through since then is, yeah, more money would be great. Who wouldn't want more money? But if I can have better communication with my boss, better communication with the employees I'm around, better communication just overall, I would feel like, one, I'm being valued, I'm being heard. And then through that, it kind of does open up that door to, hey, I like working with Juan. Yeah. Juan's really good. He communicates when he needs. He does this. I don't mind paying him more money. Yeah. So like that byproduct will come eventually. Yeah. Not all the time for anybody who's working a job. It doesn't come all the time, but at least make sure that, hey, this guy's communicating what's going on. And so even the current job I have right now, I would leave my office space and I was like, hey, I'm going this place. And they're like, the other two employees are like, why do you always tell them where you're going? I was like, because I like to communicate. I like to let them know where I'm going. Yeah. They're like, yeah, but what if, like, and I was just like, that thought process didn't trigger well for them. And for me, I was like, why aren't you communicating? Yeah. Like, why aren't you not just communicating? So eventually I start hearing them jokingly, oh, I'm going over here. I'm like, you can say jokingly all you want.
You're still doing it.
But you're still doing it. And I'm okay with that. Yeah. Like, I'm okay with that. What are some things that you would say, like, hey, man, these are the some struggles that you've had, like, being a small business? Because now you've grown quite a bit as a company
I consider myself a small business.
If anyone doesn't know this, his company just painted Hotel Gavez, which is probably the biggest profile.
Yes, right now it is, but we've also done a bunch that kind of flew under the radar. The Hotel Gavez was painted twice by your server here. So we started painting with the previous owner in white.
It's because people cared about how it turned pink.
Well, that's what triggered kind of an uphill of tick of advertising. But we started painting with the previous group that owned the building. And they actually put a bunch of money into the building, and because it was up for sale, they were like, "Well, we're going to replace this. We ended up doing about 660 cubic feet of repairs, about 18,000 linear feet of perimeter caulking, which sealed all the windows, and so we were demoing this thing and painting, and we were going up and down, up and down, up and down. We get to about 3/4 of the way, and they're like, "Hey, there's a change in ownership." I was like, "Well, there went my contract." The guy's like, "No, we're going to put it in the contract that he's going to finish out the contract with you." So we get about 3/4 of the way, and the guy's like, "I want it pink." And I was like, "You're crazy." And I thought about it for a while, and I was like, I might turn this job down because I'm always going to be the guy that painted the Galvez pink. And I thought about it, and I struggled with it, and some people were like, yes, take all the money.
There was a huge, even just like in the office I worked at, like over Facebook, people hated this.
So I go into it, and I say, well, this is the amount of money I want to paint it pink. I don't give a shit if you paint it purple, it's yours. But ironically enough, we painted some other stuff purple. So we start painting, he's like, okay, go. And I was like, all right. And we start putting samples up, and it was bad. It was, people were coming up to us, they're like, you're crazy, like threatening us, blah, 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 blah. But the current owner kind of thrives on that. He was like, I want the turmoil. I'm like the Dallas Cowboys. I want this hate. Like, I want you guys to hate me. And he starts saying, well, I want this. And then we start making the turn. We're like, you guys painted the, we got paid twice to paint that bad boy. Yeah.
Wow.
Dang, that's good.
Yeah, we painted it twice. I'm like, you sure? The paint's not even dry yet. He was like, yep, go. And I was like, all right. So that was that one. We've done some other challenging ones that we're not.
Yeah, that's nuts. Like, I'm still just thinking about, like, halfway through the job and you want to go pink, but because
not even, it's 3/4, like we were on the finish
but
line.
I like
finishing.
Yeah, we were. All we had left was the back street, which is Avenue P, which is the one way. all three sides of the hotel, which was what took the majority of the money, because that was because the coast side was the one.
Oh, is that why y'all started in the back?
Yeah.
Oh, geez, that's crazy.
So
I was like,
he just make the turn. And I was like, "You sure?" He was like, "Yeah." And it was faster on the way around, because we already knew, we have to move this here. This has to be done with the scaffolds, and we had a 175-foot lift out there for a month, and that's the biggest they make. And we were just rolling. He's like, "I'm not shutting down anything. Just keep going." I'm like, "All right, bro, whatever you want."
Man, that's crazy. I remember.
I actually like it pink.
For anyone who's
really
not
cool.
familiar, who's watching this, who's not familiar with Galveston Island in Texas, Google it. Google Hotel Galvez. You'll see the previous
beautiful historical hotel.
I can see that the historical foundation. Everyone in Galveston was kind of like hating it because but realistically, I really like it.
I think they were just used to seeing it in white, and then when we put up the new white, everybody's like, "Well, it still just looks majestic." But he cut it up into places where it's nice. Yeah, it's got some nice breaks in it.
Yeah. I really like it. I think it feels very
unique.
Not only that, but like very Palm Beach, very vibrant.
So what?
I like that for Galveston.
That pink is actually the Beverly Hills, in Hollywood. So he flew out to there, and he's like, "That's the pink I want." He took a sample from the window or something like that. He went downstairs and met the engineer. He's like, "I need the color," and he was like, "This guy does not go through a middleman or send an email. He just goes down there and finds who paints around here," and he grabs the guy. He's like, "What color is this?" And he brought the sample back. "This is the color," and I was like,
"Wow."
But the vision that he has was not something that I saw. So I learned from that too. I'm like, this guy just sees things differently. Yeah.
And sometimes you kind of like, I think for any business owner, you have to trust whoever's paying you for that. Yeah. Like if they have that vision for this, because now like you look at the Hotel Galvez and it looks beautiful.
It does.
We just shot a video in there maybe like 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, and walking down the hallway, I was like, this is gorgeous. Like I know it's always been a gorgeous building, but walking there now, it
with all
feels,
of the renovations,
it feels so grand now.
It feels new.
Well, he wanted to actually roll it back to like the Rolling 20s or something like that. That's why you have a little bit of that.
And I think that's what you feel, and that's why it feels so unique and so creative, because it doesn't feel like walking in any hotel. And I'm not going to shout any names because I don't want to bring them down.
No.
But it feels very unique and very fresh, and so like that's pretty crazy that you have that story. Like I think that's a cool story to have.
What's next for you?
We were trying to expand our water park side. It's good. We just did the Splashtown in North Houston.
Yeah.
It's actually blown up. It's got like 5,000 likes and like 100,000 views on Instagram. But we did their big slide, and the guys there are really, really nice. Most of the people in the water park industry kind of know each other. So we were doing a lot of work for Schlitterbahn and Galveston, and we just think that we should just kind of cover most of Texas anyway.
Yeah.
That's my idea. The next thing is to kind of give the president of the company more of the operations side, and here kind of take over. I need to develop business. I need to be in Las Vegas at a show. I need to be in Austin checking on a client. I need just a little more time.
Yeah.
So you're gonna work more on the development.
Business development is my goal. Yeah.
Wow.
It's been 22 years. I mean, I either like this shit or get off the pot. At this point, But that's kind of what I'm good at. Like I can sell a job. I can estimate a job, and my guys are becoming really good at executing, at timing things. There's nobody's ever going to do it as good as you think you're doing it. Now other people come in and like, you're not that good. I know I'm not that good, but it's worked for this long. So
Well, you also got to have that self-confidence. You can't just walk around thinking like, oh, I'm not Joe Smo over there. Like if they hired him, it'd be good. They hire me. Like you can't walk around loopy like that. You got to walk a little bit of pride and like,
I like that.
I got it.
There's part of me that, and it's not arrogance. It's more like kind of like being brought up by an old grandmother and say, hey, I told you were going to fall on your face. So I'll let the competition kind of take over. Go ahead, take it, take the job.
Yeah.
You'll call me in the year. You'll call me, or 5 years from now they won't be around anymore and be like, well, it's time to redo it. Or 10 years, we'll be right there. We're not going anywhere. That's all I got. I can't go drive for UPS right now.
So
that's good.
You were talking about the development aspect. What do you see? How do you see it developing?
Well, the one-on-one is still an art. You have to be good at the one-on-one. You have to show up, shake hands, take people out to dinner, whatever. The whole selling is something a lot of people don't like. So I think yes sir.
I hate selling.
Yeah. See what I'm saying? I don't like being sold to, so I don't like selling to people. Like if you're going to come to me, then I'll give you the best service you've gotten. Communication, talk to them, et cetera, et cetera. Like you said, if I'm going to be there at 1 o'clock, then show up 15 minutes early, stuff like that. But unfortunately, everything has shifted. Not unfortunately, but everything has shifted over to the web. So we have to make a big web presence.
Yeah.
And we have to look as legitimate on paper as we look on the web, and just expanding, or just kind of keeping this kind of steam going.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for
Thank you.
joining us, Juan. This was an amazing podcast.
It was a good episode. I like the history.
Yeah,
and we covered everything. I mean, we laughed.
We covered the grandma from businesses to
I want to thank my wife and my son.
Absolutely.
They've been through.
Yeah,
they've seen a lot, because unfortunately the people you love the most get the worst of you. And when you're super stressed and you're not being able to make payroll, or somebody's hounding you for something, they get worst part of you. It's terrible.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
Well, not only that, now your wife and your kid has a video of you saying it. We appreciate you. So that forever. I always tell my kids they're really what was it? I think it was like last week or so. They were really happy that we had a YouTube channel. Like weirdly enough, they were like, "Yeah, you got a YouTube channel? Like that's so cool."
You were that cool.
And I like it because I think in years to come they're gonna look back at this when they're older, or teenagers, or adults. And depending if YouTube's still alive, which I think it will be, they're going to be looking at this and being like, that's my mom and dad. And man, they're shooting in 4K. What happened to 12K? Like, it'd be crazy, the technology at the time. But or 3D with the goggles, or virtual reality. But they're going to be looking at him like, hey, that's my mom and dad. And I just like that perspective of this is proof for them that mom and dad worked, and we're doing a lot of stuff for the future of them. Absolutely. And so, but honestly, Juan, thank you so much for jumping on this cast.
Thank you guys. I'm really surprised that this has always been a kind of a bucket list item for me. Like I want to go talk to people, because if you can't tell, I don't shut up. But I mean it well. Like I want others to realize, dude, if homeboy could come out of the hole he was in, I can do it.
Yeah.
Or just participate with somebody that can do it better with you, and say, hey man, let's join forces. Not everybody has to be a business owner. Let's be the freaking best cleaner you can be, whatever. Just do it right. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I think if you're with a company, if you're working a job right now and you love the job that you actually genuinely love the work you're doing, stay there. Work it. Do what you need to do. I mean, if you feel like you love doing it, and you can't think of anything else, then do it. Just do it the best you can do it.
Absolutely.
And I think at that point, you're no longer thinking of your job as a job. You're thinking it as your purpose. Mm-hmm. And it changes the way you think completely. For me, I go to work thinking it's work. I do this and I think this is fun. This is crazy. This is your purpose. This is my purpose. And so for me, that's why I really push for jobs, for business. I always push people find something, sell something on Etsy, do whatever, make some weird things, paint something if that's your passion, do whatever it is, and then push it. If
just don't paint any hotels in Galveston.
All right, with that, we're gonna end it. Thank you so much again for being on our podcast. Thank you guys for watching. We hope that you like, subscribe, do all the things that YouTube likes for you to do, and then from us, just have a good one. Peace out.
Bye.